What emotions are you ashamed of feeling? I'm going to be talking about how this is one of the most important things to come in contact with and to be honest with yourself about if you want to truly heal, because emotions are the cause of pretty much all sicknesses, ailments on all levels. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started today, I just want to let you know I'm doing a couple more free breakthrough calls. There's a link pinned in the comment section below. A breakthrough call is a 30-minute call where I help you go over where you're stuck in your life. So like what's blocking you and getting in the way of you kind of going for what you want or manifesting what you want. And then I help you unravel it, and find some solutions to align with your highest timeline. So emotions are everything, really. I've always kind of known since I was a little kid that the only reason anybody does anything is because of how it makes them feel. And that's not selfish or self-centered. It can be selfish and self-centered. But even people who are, we have this fairy tale like perception of service to others as if there's no part of the self involved in it. And that's bullshit. There's no such thing as that. But even the people we purport to be these masterful saints that are just giving all the time to everybody else, why are they doing that? They're doing it because of how it makes them feel. It makes them feel good to help other people. It's still about how they feel. Okay, the emotions are absolutely everything. And the reason humans are in such trauma, or one of the main reasons, is because our thoughts and our emotions have been separated. They don't go together. We all know examples of this within ourselves and other people. People saying what they don't mean, talking about a particular thing, but the emotion or vibration or frequency underneath it does not match. Another example of thoughts and emotions not matching is us not being in our body. That's kind of how we're not in our body, because the emotions are in the body. So when you start to feel your emotions, you start to come into your body, and that's where you heal. As far as I'm concerned, and there are plenty of researchers who have basically proven this, the vast majority of all sicknesses, ailments, diseases, whether it's mental, psychological, physical, whatever, at some point stems from a negative emotional state. Okay? So if you want to heal, if you want to get better, if you want your life to shift, you've got to get in touch with your emotions, emotional intelligence, understanding what you feel, why you feel it, where you feel it, etc. Now, this can be a scary process because we've been conditioned to stay away from feeling. Why? Because life's so freaking traumatic that in childhood and other circumstances, for certain periods of time, it may have served us not to feel them. And there are times when that's true. When you're going through a massive trauma, dissociation, which is disconnecting from your emotions, can help you survive it, but you don't want to stay in that state. Okay? So I'm going to talk just a little bit briefly about something I've been going through in terms of various emotions I'm learning to express at a deeper level. And then I'm going to get into what you can do to help access hidden emotions and to release them. Okay, I started taking a jester class. And one of the main roles of the jester is to observe human behavior, to observe patterns that we kind of all repeat and fall into, human folly, human error, ways that we all consistently fuck up, and then satirize that. But the way that's done is by kind of finding those common threads that repeat and then kind of mimicking it at a very large level, but in an honest way that hits the target. A lot of times when people laugh at something, it's not because it's funny, because what is funny? It's because they relate. It's because we empathize. It's because it's like, oh, I get that. I know what that is. And we're in on the joke because there's a connection to it. All right. So one of the assignments we had in class was as a homework assignment, it was to find something that we wanted to bring to light, to shine a light on. And it could have been something within ourselves. It could have been, when your uncle or your father or this person does this. It was just a 60-second performance. But one of the things that I've always wanted to bring into performance is very high levels of anger. Because for me, I always find it hilarious when I see someone, especially comically, just losing their shit. And one of the reasons for this is because I've always been such a sensitive person, such an emotional person, and also because I grew up in this very heightened sort of emotional family. I come from a very good family, a very loving, very compassionate family, but I also come from crazy. My grandma was crazy. She was in and out of psych wards. She was bipolar. She had electroshock therapy. My uncle is nuts. And that was the guy that he's the one that I did in class. My uncle, is someone who I'm not going to get too much into it, but he had dreams when he was younger to be in the music industry. It didn't quite work out. He's gotten sick. He has a lot of physical pain all the time. Underneath the surface, he's this very loving, compassionate guy, but he is always on the frayed edges of sanity. And he lives with my parents at this point. And for 30 years or more, all he does all the time is he threatens to kill himself. And that's not, a horribly funny thing, but it also can be when you kind of get those emotions. And he's always his catchphrase is, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. If you see a gun, get it. I'm done. I've never seen so many inanimate objects lose a fucking fight before. I mean, there's holes in his door. He can't control his anger, okay? And but he's also this very kind, sensitive person. And that's what I come from, and that's kind of what I have in me too. And so I find it funny and interesting when there's this extreme imbalance or polarity in people. Not so much people who are nice and fake nice and then kind of flip out passive aggressively behind the scenes, though that's interesting to me too. But it's the people who are authentically both. And one of the things that he'll do, I was actually trying to act out this one particular moment where, so he lives with my parents. He's about 71, 72. And you'll walk into the house sometimes and you'll just hear him screaming. I mean, it's really bad. The energy from my mom, it's just awful. And yet it's also funny sometimes. He always wants to hang out with me, which is sweet, but it's hard for me to be around being so empathic and when he's in such an awful state. So this was, I don't know, a couple of years ago. But I walk into their house and I hear him just go, fucking goddamn it, I can't take it anymore. You hear fucking walls smash and doors crack open and chairs fly. And he walks out of the garage and just slams the door God damn it, shit. And then he sees me and he looks at me and he goes, what are you doing later? What, you want to hang out after, there's no awareness of the fact that he went from this level up here of insanity to just hey, let's go hang out. That's what I was trying to play out last night. But my point is this. What I was really more getting at, and the reason why I find that so interesting, is because I have the same thing in me. And I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of it. And it was difficult for me to do this. It wasn't that difficult because I've been performing for a long time, but I've been very sensitive since I was little. Life is just excruciating. It always has been. It's so much better than it's ever been. But when you're hypersensitive all the time in this world, that's what happens. And when you're hypersensitive, as I am, as my family is, we tend to try to shut off our sensitivity so we don't feel so much. And in doing that, we start to suppress emotions because they're not okay. You can't be throwing tantrums and tirades all the time in public, though he does. And then we start to get sick. We start to get sick because of everything that we're holding back. Like to this day, I'm very patient. I can be very patient. I'm very compassionate. I never ever take my anger out at other people. I never cut into people or put them down ever. But I'm so freaking sensitive. If I go out in traffic for more than 10 minutes, I just start to lose it. I can't take it. And there's these parts of me that just want to start screaming. Like if I go to try to find a parking space and someone cuts right in front of me, it's like because I am processing so much emotion and so much energy all the time, and then it's like I have to deal with that, I just want to flip out and fucking scream. And I don't to them, but inside I do. Who can relate to this? But this is the thing. I have this, and this is very common for many sensitive, empathic people. I have this belief or this desire to be this really, benevolent, evolved, advanced spiritual being. And my perception of that being is that I can't get really angry. I can't get really afraid. I can't get really sad too much. I'm supposed to always be in this really heightened, high vibrational space. And so I'm very ashamed of the part of me that has these tantrums inside. And so I don't want to express it. And so in class recently, when I did this, it was very cathartic for me, but everybody talked a little bit afterward about what they were, bringing to light and why, etc. But it was also hard because I don't want to be seen that way. I don't want to be seen as someone who's very angry or has a lot of anger, even though my anger comes from a good place. It comes from being so frustrated with how dark this world is, with war and oppression and how mean people are to each other and how fake they are and other dimensional things that have been going on the planet. All of that stuff is what prompts my anger. My anger actually comes from compassion. But as children, through trauma and our conditioning, we're taught that various emotions aren't okay. And we're taught basically to be ashamed of them. And then what happens is we start short-circuiting internally because we're taking all of this energy that the emotion is and we're holding it down. We're stuffing it inside. We're putting it in a closet. We're pretending like we don't have it. We're trying to be super positive. Everything's wonderful and I'm so fucking grateful, when underneath we want to kill somebody even though we don't really want to kill them. And all that does is make us sick. So where are you ashamed to feel? This is something to deeply reflect on. And one of the most powerful things that you can do is to simply start to state it aloud. Write it down and state it aloud. What are you ashamed to feel? Are you ashamed to feel angry? Are you ashamed to feel sad? Are you ashamed to feel shame? Are you ashamed to feel fear? When we just state, I feel this way about this, it starts to release. It starts to get called into the light and it starts to dissolve. The other thing that you can do is tell it to somebody else if there's somebody that you can trust who will hold a space for you, and just start stating it. I feel shame for getting angry and having tantrums because I judge myself and I feel like that makes me infantile and childish and a suppressed bully and a tyrant who gets mad every time that I can't get what I want. And that's not Most people are coming from that's not correct culturally, but as we start to wake up spiritually, we're like, that's not correct spiritually. That's not what a spiritual being does. And I would actually make the opposite argument. The more spiritual you are, generally, the more sensitive you are. And we're not here to be perfect spiritual beings. We're here to be human, which is insane. So the higher your vibration, and I'm not trying to fluff up anybody's egos here, but the higher your vibration as a soul or whatever, the harder time you're going to have on this planet. Because it's like, think of like trying to fit like 2 peas in a genie bottle versus trying to fit the Incredible Hulk in a genie bottle. It's more of a compression. It's more of a friction. It's harder. So you're going to have more of like a schism, a rage, a frustration. The opposite of creation is destruction. The more creative you are, the more destructive you are. It's not a problem to be destructive. It's about being conscious with it and what you do with it, which is why art, creativity, music, any way you can channel these emotions in a healthy way is crucial. Meditation is great, but most really creative people, meditation is not enough. I can't sit and meditate in a no-mind state for like hours at a time. I can't do that. I'm creating or I'm destroying. And if I'm not creating something positive, I'm destroying something in myself. And that's just how it is. That's the whole breadth of creativity. That is what it is in the universe too. Think of the goddess Kali. I mean, I don't know any very powerful feminine or masculine creative force later comes around to destroy things, but they destroy things to create. This is over, this doesn't work anymore, wipe it away, start over. But they don't judge themselves for the destructive piece. And our negative emotions are part of that polarity. And as we really embrace them and channel them and use them and stop stuffing them down and making ourselves sick with them, that's where our power is. And it's a lot of power. Emotion is power. Sensitivity is power. The more you feel bad. The more you feel good. The more you feel numb, the more you're just nothing and the sicker you get. So state them, write them out, talk to somebody about them, and channel them into something positive. And just give yourself space to feel all of what you feel. And know that a perfect spiritual being feels everything. It's just a perfect spiritual being, there's no fucking such thing, but a perfect spiritual being feels all of it and is okay with all of it. It accepts when they're angry, it accepts when they're sad, it accepts when they're afraid. It just experiences it as it is. I hope that helps. Thank you so much to anyone who's watched this. I always appreciate everybody who watches these videos. I have a free energy clearing in the description below. Other than that, please let me know what you think. If you have any comments, revelations, breakthroughs, I look forward to next time, and peace.